What's going on, cryptocurrency universe? It's the Bitcoin miner here, guys, and I hope everybody's doing well today. And I hope you had a chance to check out the build video, the ultimate Chia build video, parts you're going to need, why you might use this part versus another part. And if you missed that, make sure to go back and check it out. This is going to be the follow-up software version to setting up this rig and getting you plotting. This is, well, is and was, we'll see how this ultimately turns out, it was going to be my tri-miner. We were going to be plotting Chia on it, mining Ethereum with the 3080 graphics card, and mining Ethereum or mining Verus also with the leftover CPU power. I've noticed these rigs running 24 hours a day aren't always taxing the CPUs fully, even running 14 plots. So there seems to be a little extra that we can get out of it, and I wanted to try to go ahead and squeeze that little bit out of the rig. No point in wasting any processing power. But, yeah, had trouble with the 3080. I plugged into the riser rig. It's just not giving me a display out. That's a problem for another day. So I'll see how I can get that fixed and see if we can't get this up and running. But I wanted to go through the initialized settings that I like to do, whether it be for a Verus mining rig, Chia rig, Ethereum rig, whatever it is. These are kind of basic settings I'll go into the BIOS and do. And that way that we can get this guy up and running as smooth as possible, set the RAM timing speeds and everything else. So let's go on over to the BIOS window, and you guys are going to want to select the AI tweaker. Once you get there, you may need to go down to the bottom right-hand corner and select advanced mode before you will see these options at the top. Now, as you can see with this particular setup, we have a DRAM setting of 2100 and a Infinity Fabric setting of 1200. This is just standard settings. I haven't messed with anything yet. But the RAM we bought was 3600 speeds, plus I think it was 16 timings. So in order to get this system to take it, we need to go ahead and program it. So this is really simple. We're just going to come over here to the AI overclock tuner, and they have a preset DOCP. Now this is different names based on different manufacturers, so you may want to look this up and convert this to your board manufacturer, but at ASUS they use DOCP, and I don't remember what the other names for it is. Depending on the RAM you purchase, you will have different preset timings here. So you only have one choice here, and as you can see, it adjusts the Infinity Fabric speed. And the only other thing we need to look at is the memory frequency, and it automatically took it to 3600 DDR4 when we selected that memory timing. So we're just going to scroll down and make sure that these stay on auto, and then this bumps us up to 3.5. Okay, this looks great. All right, guys, for this miner,
with Verus, the possibilities are endless. Verus is building the future of a decentralized, self-sovereign, quantum-ready private ID and global currency that is ready for the world. It's your identity upgrade for a digital world. It's Verus ID. Download the free software at verus.io and register your Verus ID today.
In every board, it's different. You need to go into the advanced settings, and I like to have the computer automatically turn on power loss. Unfortunately, I don't know where it is right off the top on this one, but every board is going to be different. So even if I showed you on this one, you would have to most likely Google it for your particular board. But there's a setting that just allows you to automatically power on after a power loss. So that way, if you're mining or something, it'll just turn right back on if there's a power issue. That's it, guys. That's all we need to do to set up the BIOS. So we're going to go ahead and select exit, and then save changes. We always want to double check our changes over here, just in case we accidentally clicked anything. So we did change the AI tuner, the memory frequency, and the latencies, and the voltage. All right, everything looks great, guys. So let's go ahead and click OK. So one other quick note, I know if you guys watched the build video and what different parts were, I was planning on using the NVMEs over here, the Intel commercial drives, which I've been buying some new and some used on eBay because you can find really good deals sometimes. This is partly what's taking me so long to get this build out. It's the trouble I'm having. So you guys aren't the only ones having trouble at points. But I could not get the Windows to initialize these drives for whatever reason. So I called them Intel, talked to their tech support, and if you guys look really closely at that FW over here, there's a bunch of X's. And the only conclusion the gentleman could tell me at tech support was that because there are no serial numbers at that point, these may be OEM SSDs, and because they're OEM or sold to Dell, Lenovo, or somebody, they are only going to work in one of their systems. You have to have a Dell or Lenovo chipset in order to get them to work. But I just could not get them to work. I'm sending them back. It's not a big deal. I mean, obviously you get a return policy on eBay, but I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of this stuff. And you can save yourself some time and effort if you look at the pictures. Maybe ask the seller, are these the actual pictures of the devices that you're going to be purchasing? And make sure to check that FW numbers right in there, the model numbers and the serial numbers, and look those up. Just word of advice, I went ahead and ordered some Sabrent Rocket. These heat sinks, these things are really nice, actually. I'm very impressed with the quality of those. But we'll see what the performance is. So now we'll have a bunch of different hard drives in different places. Different computers. And we can test the results and try to repair and get back to you guys on that. So now that we've got Windows started, we need to go ahead and start thinking about some of the Windows settings. Okay, always make sure that your machine is up to date, and I like to go ahead and pause it for as much as possible, which is usually about 30 days, 60 days, and especially when you're plotting, and this will give you a nice window to not have any interrupts. Okay, under settings, we're going to want to go to System, and then select Power and Sleep under System. And as you can see, we need to set the power, sleep settings, and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and select the additional power settings. All right, now we're under the additional power settings. For any type of miner, always make sure that it's selected as high performance. Now we need to set our hard drives so that they are always on in this rig. Rather it be an internal or external hard drives, we're going to do this the exact same way. So I do this with any rig with the hard drive, so that way they're not always spinning up and spinning down, which will shorten their lifespan. If they're constantly spinning, it reduces the wear and tear. It's kind of like starting an engine. It's kind of one of the harder parts on an engine is starting it versus just kind of letting it run. So what we need to do here is we need to find our advanced power settings, change plan settings over here. And then we need to go to change advanced power settings. Once we're under this, you can see turn off hard disk settings at 0. We want to make sure that this is set at 0. I've actually already fixed this on this computer. That will be 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something preset there. So that is the most important settings on here, is to set that number to 0. And we need to check a couple other ones. Okay, so as you can see, it reverted back to never over here. I need you guys to go to the sleep setting and make sure that hibernate after is on never. Scroll on down to processor management and select maximum processor state and make sure that's set at 100. Then you will need to press apply. Once you apply it, press OK. There are a few other settings that you guys could get into, but there's nothing really necessary. Mainly privacy. Just kind of make sure that your system is not feeding information back as much as possible. So you may want to make sure these devices are off. And that's really about all you're going to need to set up. Other than I showed you earlier, your update and security. So Now we need to go on down to the start bar and start typing in disk, and you will see create and format hard disk partitions. Let's go ahead and select that. You're going to come up to your disk management software. Okay, the next step is to make sure that your drives are initialized. So if they're not initialized, you would need to right click over here and you would see an option initialize. And once you had a chance to initialize it, it'll pop up with a box and it'll ask you which version. Go with just the standard version, the pre-selection, and then continue. And once that's done, you will get to something like this, but they will not actually show up on your computers yet, because now we have to set them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to stripe these two drives together, these 2 terabyte drives, which are the Sabrent 2 terabytes right here. And once we stripe these, we can actually run RAID if you want to do it in the BIOS, but Windows is just so much easier just to stripe them real quick and keep moving. So how we're going to do that is very simple. All we need to do is right click and new striped volume. Okay, so now we just need to add the second disk. As you can see, I just moved it over from available to the right hand side and click next. Okay, now we need to assign a drive letter. In the BAT files that I've been giving you guys, I always use T because it's our temporary drive. So I will go ahead and select T and then select next. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and continue with the standard settings. Format this volume with the standard NF or NTFS, the default setting, and finish. And select yes for this as well. Okay, as you guys can see, it says formatting, and we'll wait for this to complete. Okay, this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And that's all we're going to need to do over here in disk management. We can close that out. And you'll go over to your drive, your PC, and you'll be able to see the new temporary drives. So, we're just about have everything on this machine set up and ready so that we can either use it for CPU mining, plotting, and not Ethereum mining yet. There's still some other software and things we would do for that, but considering I don't have that up and running, we're going to skip that for my try miner, and we'll maybe try to update this and do another video later on. But for now, let's get you guys up and plotting and trying to use any excess CPU power that you might have. Let's get this process continued. Okay, let's go get the software that we need to get everything set up so that we can CPU mine and Chia mine. Chia farm and plot. So we're going to go ahead and download whichever version you need for Chia. It's right here on their homepage. Make sure to check the website, chia.net. And go over, I'm using Windows. Select Windows. Let it download. Okay, if you've got extra processing power, this again is going to depend on your particular rig, so don't over push it. But if you have extra processing power and not enough temporary space, then you can also CPU mine at the same time. So head on over to Verus.io, and we are going to. You can mine in the wallet just like Chia, but that's solo mining. The same with Chia. But what we're going to do is use the mining software under mining and staking, and we're going to select mining software, and we want to use the CC miner for CPU right here. We're going to go ahead and download that one. Now, there are quite a few different options for a CPU miner, but the reason why we're choosing this one is because there's a priority setting, and I believe the priority setting is already low. So this will allow all other tasks on the system that's running to take priority over using the CPU to mine. So this should have a good balance of running in the background without running into any issues with plotting. I'm not sure about the other miners. They may do the same thing, but I just know that this works with this one. So just scroll down on GitHub until you get to the assets. You're going to want to download the GitHub zip right here, this one. And for this one, there's a password, as you can see right there. Password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you unzip it, you will need to enter that password. Okay, if you guys happen to need a wallet, go over to Get Wallet. And then you can select, whether you want the mobile or the desktop version. The desktop wallet's actually pretty nice. It's a multi-coin wallet, so you can use it for Ethereum, Bitcoin, quite a few different things. So you may want to look into checking that out, especially being a miner. I use it a lot when I use it for small or different coins or different things here and there. Okay, let's head on back over to getting everything set up. Go ahead and initialize the Chia application. And once you've got this set up, there's a couple of ways we can do this. If this is your only machine, you will put in this private key. You'll have this all set up, and you can farm and plot all straight from the GUI. It's pretty simple. If you have multiple machines, like I have set up, you only want to farm from, you only want to run one node, a single node. The other machines are called farmers. But the farmers can also be plotters. So this particular rig is going to be a plotter and a farmer at the same time. So, again, it depends on the setup. For most people's cases, you'll just use the GUI. So, part 2 of this video, so stay tuned, look out for that. I'll try to put it up shortly afterwards, if you guys are interested, will be to do it as bat files. You're going to have to install whatever hard drives you prefer to use, whether it be external or internal. And I use 2 separate bat files with stagger starts. So I will click this one, wait, and it depends on the system and how many you're trying to do, and then click this one. And they're pre-programmed to autofill those 2 drives. I can come back in, 2 days, and they're full. And then set it up to run the cycle again to fill up a couple drives. This makes it so much easier being a stay-at-home dad. And because this is a harvester for me, I will not put my seed phrase in. I actually, when we do it this method, I want to make sure it's clear that we don't actually start the Chia application. It's okay if you have your seed phrase in, but when you're using the bat files, we don't actually start the application. But this is why I'm making it as a second video, not to confuse people that just want to use the GUI straight off the bat. And I'll also include the Verus setup in that part, because this is going to be a bit more advanced. I think most people will just use the GUI, run a few plots, and go from there. And again, in that setup, we're going to show you how to set up this machine as a harvester. So you're going to have to get your CA file. You're going to have to kind of connect this node or this machine to your main node. And I'll show you guys how to get all those IP addresses and basically get all that taken care of. But this should get you your computer up and running. If you have your hard drive set on always on, you've got your power maximum set to maximum power settings. We've turned off Windows updates, and we've striped the drives. Everything's good to go. Now, stay tuned, guys. If you're interested in doing the bat file way that's more automated, so that you can just kind of set it and go. You could even set this thing to fill up 4 drives or 8 drives automatically if you wanted to, or whatever your end goal was. It would make it much simpler. So thanks again, guys, for checking out the video. I appreciate it, and stay tuned. Talk to you guys later on. Remember to like, subscribe.
One of the biggest barriers to using cryptocurrency for many new and old users is the cumbersome, long, and nonsensical crypto addresses that look something like this. Crypto addresses are really not designed with humans in mind. Just like nobody expects you to navigate the internet just by using IP addresses, we use human-readable domains instead of having to use a number-based IP address. Verus ID solves this problem. By registering a Verus ID, there are no long strings of characters to keep track of, just a simple name that you choose, like an email address or the login name to your favorite websites. You can send or receive cryptocurrency from anyone just as easily as sending a text. For instance, if Dan has registered the Verus ID, my ID, and wants to receive a payment from Mary, all Mary needs is his Verus ID, my ID, @ Mary can send crypto to this ID just like an email. Anyone can create a Verus ID and have a self-sovereign identity that is completely decentralized with many built-in features. The ability to revoke your ID in case your access is lost or compromised, which freezes all funds and actions. The ability to recover your ID and reassign it. You also have the ability to transfer the authority over an ID. You can even send private messages, you can sign and verify messages and files, participate in voting, and more. In the future, additional features will be enabled like the ability to make a blockchain or token without any coding. Make a fully decentralized website. Your ID can even be used to log into websites, services, and more. With Verus, the possibilities are endless. Verus is building the future of a decentralized, self-sovereign, quantum-ready private ID and global currency that is ready for the world. It's your identity upgrade for a digital world. It's Verus ID. Download the free software at verus.io and register your Verus ID today.